I came across this tweet from River, and I think it shows you something that's pretty scary here. We see here that businesses have accumulated 157,000 Bitcoin, while individuals have sold 250,000 Bitcoin. And we can see here MicroStrategy or strategy makes up 77% of this total growth. I think this is completely unsustainable. I don't think this can last for very long. What are your thoughts?
It literally can't. I mean, there's a fixed supply of Bitcoin, right? So, I mean, this is 250,000 Bitcoin being moved. There are millions of Bitcoin being held by individuals, but eventually there still ends up being a point where people are saying the price is appreciating too much. I'm not willing to let go of my Bitcoin, or maybe I shave off a little percentage of it. But still, if there's that demand for it, the only thing that can happen is the price moves up until that demand is reached by a new seller entering the market. And there's this sort of flywheel again, where if the price is rapidly going up, that doesn't incentivize you to sell. I mean, it incentivizes maybe some people, again, to shave off a little bit, but there's also the incentive of, I'm just going to wait because I don't want to sell while it's going up because it might go up even more. So there's that flywheel effect there that could, again, ramp it up and become this like massive supply shock.
Yeah, I mean, the scary thing for me is that all this Bitcoin is flowing out of people's hands like us, right? That's, I think, the biggest concern for me is that Bitcoin held by individuals. And we have to keep in mind here that the majority of people who were selling those, what was the amount there, Rajat?
250,000?
247,000 Bitcoin. They probably got into Bitcoin pretty early. Like it's not like they're buying at 90K and selling it for 95K. These are people, probably OGs, as we like to call them in the Bitcoin space. And they've made a pretty penny off of Bitcoin so far. So as this continues to happen, as more and more public companies begin to adopt Bitcoin and add Bitcoin to their balance sheet, as that happens, there'll be less people actually willing to sell. So that's kind of where the supply crunch will come in here. And I think it's only going to be a matter of time. So we actually have some numbers, some not objective numbers, but somewhat subjective in a way, just to kind of demonstrate and give a visual of what this could look like in 5 years at this trend, and seeing how many Bitcoin public companies might end up holding when all is said and done. So I'm going to bring up a spreadsheet here.
I think it's also good just to mention that these companies, when they absorb Bitcoin, we have seen them not release that Bitcoin back. They end up not being sellers. So that they're different. They act a lot differently than individuals do in the way that they're holding it when they buy it. In the future, we might see them sell some or whatever. Who knows? It all depends on their shareholders, their votes, all that stuff. But right now, we've seen them just accumulate Bitcoin. So that takes it off the market. That decreases the amount of supply, and the price has to move because of that.
Probably reduces the volatility to the downside too, right? Because you'd have to assume that if Bitcoin's sitting in a public company, hidden behind a custodian or a multi-sig or whatever that looks like, there's a lot more friction to actually move those Bitcoin. There's a lot less emotion involved in moving that Bitcoin. Whereas somebody who might have gotten into Bitcoin, 2024, they've made a little bit, they have it sitting on their ShakePay or their River account. It's pretty easy for them to swap that into cash, right? But for one of these bigger companies like a government, there's a lot more steps that they have to go through to actually part with that. So there will be less emotion involved with Bitcoin as we go forward here.
So it just extends the time horizon for how long people want to hold that Bitcoin. That's pretty crazy. Like if you think about it, with the numbers that you're about to pull up here, as more people want to hold on to Bitcoin for longer, these numbers may not even really work out.
Yeah.
So this is just for the audience, this is purely speculative, where like we're just guessing here because we don't know, right? For all we know, people stop wanting to sell Bitcoin after 1 million more go to the businesses, right? And then there's no more Bitcoin available. We don't know if that's going to happen, but go ahead with your numbers there, Jor.
Yeah, it's important to clarify that because we really do have no idea. And Bitcoin is such a unique asset because we've never had anything with absolute scarcity before. So this is a beast we've never seen. It's hard to predict things when you have no idea what would happen there. But basically what we did here is we took the 247,000 Bitcoin that has flowed out of individuals' hands and into public companies, governments, and other large organizations. And we kind of took that over the next 5 years as if that's going to continue to happen. That trend is going to continue to happen. So after 5 years of outflows from individuals to public companies, that leaves 3.7 million Bitcoin leaving our hands and going to the public companies. And this is an objective number. Public companies, 55,000 around the world, assuming that they're all going to have some Bitcoin in their balance sheet. That leaves with a number of 68 Bitcoin per public company. What do you guys think about that number? Almost 69.
That's crazy.
Almost 69. Nice. Yeah, you know, a lot of those public companies aren't going to even be able to get one Bitcoin. Many of them will be able to get more than 68. So it's, again, all of this is speculative, very hard to calculate any of this stuff with the information that's here. There's all those numbers are guesses at what will happen. But yeah, I mean, this is a trend we've seen continuing. Public companies are adopting Bitcoin. They're buying in size compared to individuals. And I mean, where are they going to get that Bitcoin from? I mean, 3.75 million Bitcoin is a lot of Bitcoin. There's only so much out there. There's only 21 million, right? That's a lot of Bitcoin to buy.
And one crazy thing is out of these 55,000, only 197,000 or only 197 have reported that they own Bitcoin. So there's still 54,803 companies left to buy Bitcoin. Otherwise, they won't be companies. Like, they're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
And if this is kind of plays out as we expect it to, obviously there's not going to be 68 even split, just like the amount of sats per person around the world. It's not going to be even. But that would assume that Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, I guess Tesla already has some Bitcoin on their balance sheet, NVIDIA, that means that those companies get 68 Bitcoin for, and you know, it's funny, but like the longer they wait, the more of the odds of that actually happening come true. Like a company like Semler Scientific or Metaplanet, I wouldn't, Semler's a little bit different because they're actually producing goods and making money off that. They were generating cash flow. Metaplanet wasn't. Their business and their management team will say like this was a failing business until we adopted Bitcoin. So it's going to be crazy to see some of the zombie companies, as Saylor likes to call them, actually end up holding more real assets than a company like Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, or Meta. It's pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, there's so I was just looking at the assets ranked by market cap. Microsoft is worth $3.3 trillion. So they're worth, what is it, 35 million Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys even think that the Mag 7 combined is going to get as much Bitcoin as MicroStrategy? I don't.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Because again, it just becomes harder and harder when they bid up the price. They're just going to be able to get less and less with. Again, that's their market cap. That's not their cash balances, right? Microsoft doesn't have anywhere near $3 trillion worth of cash or ability to create cash. I mean, what is their forward PE, right? And then that entire time that they're acquiring cash through their business operations, Bitcoin's price is going up because there's a bid from all the other public companies. It becomes this insane frenzy at a point where we're only just seeing, again, the start of it. I mean, Strategy started this all 5 years ago when they started buying Bitcoin, but we're starting to see some froth. We're starting to see a lot of public companies buying Bitcoin now and taking way more than the miners. They're taking it from individuals. Individuals are letting go of their Bitcoin, which I don't think they should, but they are. This isn't, we're not even getting into the private companies as well. Like there's almost 300,000 declared Bitcoin being held by private companies, and who knows how many. I mean, they don't have to disclose that, so there's a ton more being held by private companies, and that number is going to grow. The government is going, the different governments around the world are going to buy Bitcoin. I mean, where does it stop, right? And then other individuals like us, you know, we're acquiring more Bitcoin. We're not OGs. We didn't mine this with our home computer back in the day. We are trying to acquire Bitcoin. So where does it end? It just ends with, again, just a supply shortage. Like there just isn't enough for everyone to get as much as they're getting right now. Like eventually companies will not be able to be buying 247,000 Bitcoin a quarter or whatever it was. It's just not going to become possible at a certain point.
I just did a quick calculation here. So the market cap of all of the Mag 7 companies is about $16 trillion. So they're worth 8.2 times the total Bitcoin network.
Yeah.
So that means that those companies are worth 171 million Bitcoin. Wow.
That's pretty crazy.
When in total there's only ever going to be 21 million. And then plus you have everything else being valued. So what are these companies actually going to be able to get? So they're worth 171 million. Of course, we know they're not going to be able to get 171 million Bitcoin. So what are they going to be able to get?
What are they really worth in real terms?
What are they really worth? Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the value of all these companies is always going to trend towards the amount of Bitcoin that they have. So even let's say Microsoft has 0 Bitcoin. I think the value is going to trend to 0 until they have some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then that race is going to start at some point. I don't know when it's going to start, but it seems like they're kind of falling behind.
Yeah. Businesses are going to fall towards the amount of Bitcoin they have and their ability to acquire Bitcoin into the future.
Yeah.
But at that point, let's say that Microsoft's generating $1 billion worth of cash every year. How much Bitcoin is that actually going to get them at that point? Assuming that they don't have a whole lot, assuming they've waited, they've kept turning Saylor down at his presentations at their board meetings. They keep waiting. They have 0 Bitcoin. And all of a sudden they say, oh, we need some. So they're going to take what they have. They're going to put in, they're not going to get a whole lot of Bitcoin, and they put their profits in and they're not going to get a whole lot of Bitcoin. Semler Scientific might end up having more Bitcoin than Microsoft, which is nuts.
That's crazy.
There's going to be a reordering of the Mag 7. It's going to be the Bit 7. It's going to get nasty. It's really going to get nasty, guys. Like
that's really crazy to think about. Wow.
Well, so at the end of this spreadsheet I had here, that's if we were to give away 3.7 million Bitcoin to the public companies, assuming that's the demand that they want, plus the million that the US government thinks that they're going to be getting over the next 5 years. So you add that in the equation here. But that means that hodlers, Bitcoin hodlers, people who own Bitcoin today are going to have to part with 25% of their stack for that to happen. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not overly, I'm not anticipating ever parting with 0.25 of my stack. Plus you factor in more lost coins and the private companies, as Forrest alluded to there. We are going to see, I think, the biggest supply shock that the world has ever seen. And I don't think it's too far away, honestly. You guys have any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
I agree. It's not too far away. The way that I think of it, as more people figure out how Bitcoin works, more and more money has to be added to the economy. And then the people who actually own that Bitcoin, the 15 million Bitcoin that actually is held by individuals or by companies, they're going to become even more dedicated to holding. Because why would you sell? What are you going to sell for? And then Bitcoin is a Veblen good. So as the price rises, more people want it. And we see that, right? We see that as the price drops, we see fewer and fewer people interested in Bitcoin. So the price starts falling even more. It's almost like a spiral. It's like a death spiral on the way downward. But then on the way upward, it's like it's parabolic, just because of how people perceive this asset.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like I don't think that they're going to even get that much Bitcoin. I don't think that who knows? Maybe they will, but I don't know if they're going to get much higher. I don't know if any company is going to surpass MicroStrategy, first of all. And I don't think many other companies are going to get to, let's say, 100,000.
Well, if you just look at the distribution between Strategy, who was the first to implement this Bitcoin treasury play, in second place, there's a big gap there. And I feel like there's going to be another big gap between like the first adopter and then the second ones to follow, and then like who comes after that. I just think that the gap's going to continue to grow there.
Yeah. And their the ownership is just increasing parabolic. Like you can see this here. It's this crazy riot. Look at that number straight up. You see the same thing with Metaplanet. Metaplanet's just like an
hockey
S-curve,
stick,
right? At some point they're going to have so much, and then there's going to be so little Bitcoin available. It's going to become an S-curve.
Yeah. I think one other thing I'd like to mention, we mentioned who the individuals are that are selling this. A lot of them are the OGs, but the other metric that I saw statistic of was a lot of the selling that happened when we just recently went down to 74 was short-term holders that bought in the hundreds. And so they bought in the hundreds, started selling in the 90s, right? And so they were making a loss on their short-term trade. And Jor also mentioned this, like this downwards volatility getting sort of a lot smaller. Part of that downwards volatility is getting lessened because these companies that are acquiring Bitcoin, they see the price going down and they're doing the opposite of what the short-term traders are doing. They're buying it. So they're lessening the volatility on the downside, and they're buying it from the lettuce hand short-term traders. So that's a lot of the people giving it up too. And those people are putting cash in, buying near the tops and selling as there's a little bit of a correction. So protect your Bitcoin. Think about it as a long-term thing. Don't be a loser and trade it. Those people literally, like, what is a loser but somebody that loses something, right? They're losing their purchasing power when they're doing that. So
and they're losing their Bitcoin.
And they're losing their Bitcoin. Yeah.
That's a thumbnail idea. Don't be a loser. I think it's well said. And the key thing that we're missing here, and the reason why we have this channel, is because we want more individuals to be buying Bitcoin so that these institutions cannot get it. So we had the public companies we showed. We talked about the private companies, the governments. We didn't include AI, all the AI who are going to be wanting some Bitcoin, and individuals. There's still probably 7.5 billion humans out there who need to get some Bitcoin. So where's it all going to come from? That's the point of this whole thing. So anyways, great video, fellas. If you do feel like supporting the channel, I know the Coinos has been acting up a little bit, but there's a QR code. I think we can still receive. We just can't withdraw. So give that a spin. And if that's not working, you can also send it to maplebitcoin@speed.app. So we are 100% community funded. We do appreciate everybody who has been supporting the channel, and we're going to keep doing this. So thanks, fellas. We'll catch you on the next one.